started out as a 4-year-old boy being cross-dressed by his grandmother. She fondled over me as a female, had me standing on a little pedestal and dressing me up, and it was almost like I was a little doll. She was affirming me as a female, and I never got that from her as a boy. My uncle thought it would be playful and fun to make fun of me about dressing as a female, and then that escalated where he began to molest me and do inappropriate things to me for a couple of years. And at the same time, my dad was trying to exercise heavier discipline on me when I would do something wrong, as in his effort to try to shape me into manhood, you know. But it was perhaps only causing more devastation inside. So I had my grandmother putting me in a dress, a molestation, and then inappropriate discipline, heavy-handed discipline. All those things before I was 9 years old. I was successful as in my employment with the aerospace industry. I was working on the Apollo space missions and had began to have great success, but I was also beginning to use alcohol as a way to cope with the feelings that had started when I was a child. So I finally went and got a diagnosis. He said, well, you're gender dysphoric, and the appropriate treatment is hormones and gender reassignment surgery so that you can relieve the stress that you have. So I was a little skeptical, but I went through the process of doing hormones. I waited 2 years. I went back to him 2 years later and said, is this for real? I mean, I'm still struggling, but really surgery? And he said, absolutely. Right after my surgery, I felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off me, and I thought, yeah, this is great. I wanted to be a counselor, and so I started studying at UC Santa Cruz, and in the course of my studies, I came across one of the components was psychology, and studying psychology. And so in that studies, I realized that there's a huge psychological component to this whole transgender feelings, and I started myself on my own digging deeper into that and realized that there are a number of disorders that transgenders are never diagnosed for because they don't even begin to look for them. They automatically give you the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, give you hormones, and move you on towards surgery and affirm all that process without ever looking at what we call comorbid disorders, which are a large group of various disorders such as dissociative disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, separation anxiety, schizophrenia. It's logically impossible to change your body and become a different gender, and it's all in your head. It's really delusional, and I didn't want to live in that delusional world, that cosmetic world of being a female, thinking that I was when I really wasn't. So that was the moment of change for me, where I decided I had to somehow restore what was broken and reassert myself in my male gender. I didn't want to live my life as a pseudo female or a fake or cosmetic female, so I changed back to Walt. I went to a psychologist. We spent a great deal of time talking about my grandmother, the physical and sexual abuse that I struggled with. And so with a year, sometimes going 3 times a week and doing the psychotherapy, we finally reached a point where there was just great peace that came over me. And that great peace was the healing. And from that moment forward, I never needed to look back. I was fully integrated and ready to go forward as Walt, and I've continued to do that now for well over 20 years. Today, what we have in our school system is no different than what my grandmother did to me. I mean, they're building this ideology into your head that, you know, gender is something different, that you can just change it by putting on a dress or somebody idolizing you in a different gender. And without anybody giving you good guidance that this is inappropriate and damaging. Schools are supposed to be a place to teach children, and they should be teaching them that it's biologically impossible to change genders, but instead we have teachers and counselors in school helping kids change genders, even preventing their parents from knowing that they're helping them change genders in school. It is abusive, it is destructive, and it is one of the leading causes of suicides in young people because they're tampering with the core identity of these young people and confusing them.